This is just posturing. If you're saying that the government shutdown is bad, and the Republicans are saying that, then you can't turn around and be like, yeah, I can't wait to fire everybody permanently. It's a lie. They don't want to shut down. They know it's bad. They know it looks bad for the Republicans. Bitch, you're still begging for half the people that you fired with Doge to come back to their positions. Are they stupid enough to go along with this and then actually use this as an opportunity to fire a bunch of people? Maybe. But ultimately, that will backfire on this administration as it did already with Doge. We're going to start with the government shutdown first and foremost, okay? We're going to start with the government shutdown, and then we're going to get to piss real and what they're doing on this flotilla. But let's start
first
here. Let's start here, okay? We're starting here. First government shutdown in years.
Shutdown in nearly 7 years.
I thought he wasn't streaming today. There's never a moment where I say that I'm not streaming, okay?
Yes, this is happening. It officially began at midnight because lawmakers and President Trump failed to reach a deal. Both sides are now in a bitter fight over spending priorities and blaming the other. According to one estimate, up to 750,000.
Incredible coverage, by the way. Every media outlet, for the most part, has been covering this as though, you know, both sides have the same kinds of demands here. I mean, what are they doing? Can't they all get along and not let the government shut down? And it's been mind-boggling to watch from afar because the framing is so psychotic. Like, the Democrats are shutting down the government or refusing to push another funding bill because they have no other mechanism to defend Americans' health care, okay? They just don't. And not only that, but then also on top of that, like, whenever there's a budget allocation that takes place, oh my God. This is not, guys, this is not the Flotilla live stream, okay? I will be covering that in a little bit. Please, stop. Anytime they hit a wave, you guys have to come in here and be like, dude, you have to tune in right now. Please stop. I know I'm going to get so annoyed about this. Oh my God. Today, people are going to be so annoying about it, okay? Put up a pinned message or something. Dude, what are you talking about? You think that shit matters? Nobody listens to nobody knows how to read. We don't have a literate chat in here, okay? Chat is illiterate. Listen, government shutdowns only happen because the American government has to get back together and decide that we're going to keep funding the American government, okay? It's already a unique predicament. The reason why it's happening this time around is because, well, Trump. It's because of Trump. Because the Republicans have basically pushed through insane bills that cut tax for the wealthy or make them permanent, the previous tax cuts permanent that were supposed to sunset, while simultaneously cutting a tremendous amount of healthcare expenditures by making it more difficult for people to be able to stay on Medicaid. And this is the reason why the Democrats, first and foremost, primarily, this is the reason why Democrats are trying to get assurances from the Republican Party. Okay? Make no mistake. It's because there's $800 billion in cuts coming down for Medicaid. They want to, at least in the interim, continue funding Medicaid in this next spending cycle. There's a bunch of other reasons as well. One of the reasons is because Donald Trump is using like what is it called, like a pocket veto, and basically deciding that now that the Supreme Court has given him the power to do so, basically deciding unilaterally that it doesn't really matter what kind of congressional budget assurances are made, because he can just like veto them. He can on his own go out there and be like, oh, you guys are spending, $5 billion on U.S. aid, for example. Sucks to suck. I'm not letting that happen. And the Supreme Court basically gave him that power to do this. Okay. So obviously this kind of takes away the entire purpose of Congress. It's like the Congress is supposed to be the purse, right? They're supposed to control the purse. And now it turns out that the White House can just say, don't see that. Don't feel that way. Okay. So that's another major point of contention for not just the Democrats, but even Republicans as well. Republicans are also frustrated with this. They're just pussies and they won't say anything about Donald Trump, basically shredding what remains of the separation of powers, right? But here we are. There is going to be a major impact, obviously, when the government shuts down. There are almost 1 million people in the federal government that are furloughed. As it stands currently, as of today, all of the federal government workers are technically working without pay. That just means there's no assurance. Obviously, in the next pay period, if they end the shutdown by the next pay period, it doesn't matter. They get paid, right? But right now, there is no guarantee that they might get paid. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the federal government agencies will actually scale back on the people that they are hiring, or definitely scale back on the people that they're hiring, but like scale back on the people that are working in real time. Now, of course, one would expect ICE to also get this drawback, except Donald Trump has said ICE is still going to, and Customs and Border Patrol is still going to work full throttle as they have been. Don't know how that's going to work. Don't know how they're going to find money in the bank for that. But yes, fear not, they are legally required to back pay employees. And a lot of people are currently working without pay, technically. That doesn't mean that they're not going to get paid. If the shutdown ends by the next pay cycle, you just get paid as you normally would. Okay?
Workers could be furloughed every day, costing them $400 million in pay every day. Nancy Cordes is at the White House this morning. Nancy, good morning. This is terrible news for workers who are waking up in limbo. Good morning to you. What can you tell us?
It absolutely is, Gail. You know, usually these shutdowns get headed off because one side blinks or there's a last-minute agreement, but this time neither of those things happened. And so as of this morning, the federal government is technically out of cash. How long will it last? No one knows.
After Congress failed to reach a deal last night, tens of thousands of federal workers will be told to stay home today, furloughed without pay. Workers deemed essential, like air traffic controllers and members of the military, will stay on the job, though they won't get paid for now either.
Most TSA officers live paycheck to paycheck.
Aaron Barker works for TSA in Atlanta.
If it gets to that point where officers...
This is also going to absolutely cook travel as well, which is going to be interesting for me when I come back to the United States of America. Okay. Obviously, like, there is going to be a scale back on the employees that they even put out on the security line. So there's that issue too. You know, everything is going to be busted. Everything is going to suck. Everything already sucked, but it's going to suck even further. Obviously, we want the federal government to work. The federal government is good. It should work well. And the Trump administration has been actively trying to ensure that it doesn't work well at all. They have been undermining the federal government. So this is just a little bit of a taste of what it will look like. This is a little bit of a taste of what it would look like if Donald Trump and his administration got their wishes across.
Can't afford to come in or have to make a decision whether to purchase medication, pay daycare, or put gas in the car to come to work. They're going to have to make that hard decision, and no one really wants to do that.
But they may have to, because late last night, a funding bill did not pass the Senate. It needed 8 Democrats. It got 3.
You know, the only real victim here is the American people. This is so unnecessary and uncalled for.
Dog, you guys are Republicans. You want to victimize the American people. And the entire reason why this shutdown is even happening is because you have been actively victimizing the American population. This is one of the few instances where the Democrats actually got a light lit up under their asses and have put on some semblance of a fight. Make no mistake. This is information warfare, okay? This is going to be, the next couple of days are going to be basically the Democrats and Republicans duking it out. Republicans lying and saying, "Oh, it's the Democrats want to fund illegal immigrants or whatever," and then the Democrats being like, "No, this is because of health care." They're probably going to do not a great job of defending their position, even though their position is totally defensible. And it's going to be important. It's going to be important to communicate exactly why this is taking place. And the Republicans have already started on their messaging campaign by claiming that this is actually $1.5 trillion of money that the Democrats want to give directly to the illegal immigrants. Donald Trump posted that that AI video where he put Hakeem Jeffries in a sombrero, called him a Mexican, and then did that AI speech for Chuck Schumer saying all the illegal aliens hate us. Or we want to give them money, and if these illegal aliens were to learn how to speak English, then they would learn to hate us as well. All this shit, okay? And unfortunately, Democrats have a tough job ahead of them because they're, one, deeply uncharismatic, two, not exactly used to fighting back, and three, they already have, everyone has a tough time combating the misinformation, the faucet of misinformation that comes from the Republican Party. The government websites have already been propagandizing the position. Here's the HUD website. The radical left in Congress shut down the government. HUD will use available resources to help Americans in need. Like, it's ridiculous. This is like unheard of. It's unseen. No one has ever done this before. It's pretty crazy shit. Okay, they're just straight up using all of the outlets available to propagandize to the American public. If the Democrats did anything even remotely similar to this, they would get blasted out of orbit by the Republicans. But of course, they're doing it regardless. They're blaming AOC. They're blaming whoever the they can. It doesn't really matter. It's all bullshit. Okay, it's all bullshit. I'm here to tell you what is actually going on, and then also tell you that there are some downsides to this, especially if the Democrats don't demonstrate messaging discipline, and find themselves in a bind, and then are seen shouldering the blame, shouldering the responsibility of the shutdown.
Democrats were holding out for an extension of Obamacare premium subsidies and changes to Medicaid.
Our guarantee is to the American people that we're going to fight as hard as we can for their health care.
President Trump is warning his administration might use the funding lapse to push through more mass layoffs. I asked him about that yesterday.
How many federal workers do you plan to lay off?
Well, we may do a lot, and that's only because of the Democrats.
Later in the Oval Office,
this is just posturing. Because like, if you're saying that the government shutdown is bad, then and the Republicans are saying that, then you can't turn around and be like, yeah, I can't wait to fire everybody permanently. It's a lie. Obviously, when push comes to shove, when shit hits the fan, Republicans also recognize the importance of the federal government. Okay? They don't want to shut down. They know it's bad. They know it looks bad for the Republicans. But remember, the most important part of the shutdown is the demands. Okay? If you don't get your demands across in this treacherous information landscape because the Republicans are so used to bullying the shit out of you, then you're cooked. Then you will be seen as the responsible party for the shutdown, and you won't even be able to achieve the goals of pushing for a shutdown so you can get concessions from the Republicans on protecting people's health care. Okay? This is very important, because that is the reason why the shutdown is happening. But I do not believe that Donald Trump is like, oh, I'm going to fire everybody. I'm going to fire everybody. Bitch, you're still begging for half the people that you fired with Doge to come back to their positions, okay? Are they stupid enough to go along with this and then actually use this as an opportunity to fire a bunch of people? Maybe. But ultimately, that will backfire on this administration as it did already with Doge, okay? You can't continue this race to the bottom. You can't do that. You can't like take advantage of the shutdown to fire more people because you need those people. You need to hire more people, ironically enough, not fire them. So a decently competent party, which the Democrats are not, would use this opportunity to say, hey, look, we want to protect your health care. These guys already cut it. They want to keep cutting it, and they're behaving like petulant little children, and they're also threatening to fire more government employees. It's ridiculous. It's completely unacceptable. Look at the priorities for either party. Which message resonates better with voters? We want to protect your health care. Republicans, on the other hand, don't want to protect your health care. They already destroyed your health care. It's going to happen after the midterm elections. We want to claw back some of those expenditures. The Republican response to this has been, well, we're just going to fire more people.
The ante, claiming that all the workers who lose their jobs will somehow come from one party.
We'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and they're Democrats. They're going to be Democrats. A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things.
The uncertainty has left workers like Barker to wonder if their jobs could be on the chopping block.
It's one thing to say, hey, you may not get paid, but then to say you may not get paid forever, we're going to remove you from your job, is a whole nother thing. It's just the worst case scenario.
President Trump continues to taunt Democratic leaders about all this on social media, posting another AI-generated video of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, which is similar to an earlier one that Jeffries called bigoted. He also posted these photos of their Oval Office meeting on Monday with Trump 2028 hats prominently displayed on his desk.
Oh, God, this thing. It's just so stupid. Like, what do you say to this? What do you do? What do you say? I mean, it's just so, like, I'm not Mr. Aesthetics. I'm not Mr. Civility. But God damn, dude. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, Donald Trump engages in behavior that would be disqualifying on a daily basis. Not even on a daily basis, like 4 times a day minimum. Like, we're not even doing messaging at this point. Like, Republicans aren't even messaging. They're just trolling, which is so crazy. Like, you're the government, man. You're playing with people's lives. Trump 2028, yes. Yeah, I love this. It's for the dumbest people that you know. Like this guy, okay? He's like, oh, yeah, I love this. Oh, aren't you triggered? Aren't you owned, you libtards? It's like, dude, your healthcare is cooked, okay? You're about to eat poison for meat. And you're over here being like, hell yeah, but we own the libtards, big dog. Good luck, man. Good luck. You're going to be like, what is happening? A natural disaster is going to take place. You're going to be like, I don't know. I wasn't warned. I wonder why. I wonder why you weren't warned. Because these dipshits fired everybody that would give you the proper warning ahead of time. Now your house is underwater and you can't even get a FEMA. You can't even get FEMA assistance. You can't get the proper recovery. And you can't even rebuild your home. Why? Because they also cut funding to FEMA. And also said you have to do a loyalty pledge to Israel if you even want the minimum amount of recovery and relief aid. Hell yeah, but you owned those libtards though, man. You really did. You really did. You owned them. You owned them so hard. Lamau. What do you do with people who are too stupid to understand that they're getting over? I'm not a big fan of the Democratic Party. This is not a secret. As a matter of fact, I rail against them quite a bit. I criticized them earlier for not being good at communicating, for example, being bad communicators in general. Having said that, even as someone who is very critical of the Democratic Party, even as someone who has actively at times been combative with the Democratic Party, I still recognize that right now they're fighting for your health care. That dipshit sitting over there that's now worth $7.3 billion, wonder how that happened, is stealing from you and giving all that money back to his wealthy friends and campaign donors. Okay? What will it take for you to comprehend that this dude is f***ing you over? Let natural selection take place? That's not how it works. There's no natural selection under capitalism. It's the poor that get shafted. Plenty of poor people who don't deserve this. Nobody really deserves this, but even people who are begging for it, in my estimation, don't actually deserve it.
A nod, Tony, to a potential third term that the law does not allow.
Nancy, thank you very much.
This morning, the government shut
God damn, that's loud.
down for the first time in nearly 7 years after lawmakers from both parties failed to reach a deal.
Republicans once again rejected Democrats' proposals to avoid a shutdown.
The Democrat caucus here in town, in the Senate, has chosen to shut down the government.
Overnight, senators blocking dueling proposals. Democrats overwhelmingly rejecting a GOP bill to keep the government funded.
The bill upon reconsideration is not passed.
And Republicans blocking a Democratic bill to reverse Medicaid cuts and extend Obamacare subsidies to keep healthcare costs from rising for millions.
How long would you be willing to let a shutdown go on until your demands are met? As long as it takes?
We need to save healthcare. It's so basic and existential for a lot of American families.
With lawmakers deadlocked, the president turning to mocking Democratic leaders, posting another AI-generated video on social media, showing Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero and a fake...
Like, this is one of those things where, like, you just have to, you can't get, like, mad about this. You just can't. It's like a child, right? So, under no circumstance can you openly get mad about this shit. You just have to be like, dog, what are we doing? I mean, look at this guy. Like, I want to save your healthcare. He already stole money from your healthcare so we can give it back to his wealthy donors. And look at the kind of silliness he's engaging the serious subject matter with. 750,000 jobs are at risk right now. Americans that live paycheck to fucking paycheck. And that's what the president is doing. Okay? That's what the president is doing. Because you say this makes MAGA hard. Okay. What about all the Trump voters that work in the federal government, Chad? What are you talking about? They're worried about their paycheck. This is what the president's busy with. You're forgetting that this is not like, it's not just Democrats that work for the federal government. Okay? There are people that work in the national parks. You would assume that that's like a very woke job. Except there are plenty of Trump voters that work in the national parks, for example. That's it. Just like Medicaid is not a partisan thing, okay? Medicaid is not a partisan issue. Republicans are on Medicaid just like Democrats are on Medicaid. So you have to communicate that to the people. You have to make them understand who's actually wishing them harm, who's actually doing them harm. It's that simple.
Mustache.
We need from the President of the United States an individual who actually is focused on doing his job as opposed to engaging in racist or bigoted stereotypes.
The president trying to ramp up the pressure, threatening mass layoffs and cuts to programs.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
Even like, that's such a stupid, like what? Like what, dude? The EPA? Great. The FDA? CDC? Like, what do you mean? National Weather Service? Like, what? This is the federal government. This is not a partisan thing. Oh, my God. Yeah, you'll see. You'll see. I'm going to make sure everyone's getting trichinosis from their meat. You'll see then. Oh, the Democrats will be so owned. We'll own all the libtards when you don't know, when your house is flooded and you didn't know ahead of time and you didn't escape because the National Weather Service is cut because it's woke and gay. Everybody transgender at the woke weather service. Yeah, dude.
Including the idea of cutting benefits without saying which ones.
We can do things medically and other ways, including benefits.
Already, as many as 4 million federal workers are preparing to go without pay,
with furloughs hitting the majority of agencies. The Department of Labor seeing 76% of its workforce temporarily reduced. At Health and Human Services, 41% of employees will be furloughed, including 64% of workers at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Members of the military also hit hard, many forced to work without a paycheck. Jamie Billard, whose husband is in the Coast Guard, preparing to...
You think those are all Democrats? You think these guys are all libtards, chat? What are we thinking? Like, how do they feel when they hear their president, the guy that they voted for, turn around and be like, I'm going to cut them. I'm going to cut your jobs. I don't give a shit. Like a petulant child. You think they like that? No, this is an opportunity to explain to people, to show them the truth. This is an opportunity to expose the truth for all of your loved ones who are Trump supporters still at this point. If you have any that you haven't cut contact with. Okay? That's it. Like, this is a perfect opportunity. He is so bad. Like, he is just, I don't know. He's like a kid. He's like a little baby. He's behaving like a little baby. And he's threatening the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of government employees purely to posture from a position of leverage. Yeah. Also, we have the new jobs numbers that came out. The revised jobs numbers actually went from 54,000 down to minus 3,000. In September, the numbers of jobs that were created was minus 32,000. So let's see how that works out. This isn't the unrevised numbers, I think, by the way. We'll only find out what the revised numbers look like and how many more jobs were actually cut by the end of this month, in the month of September, just like we found out that the revised job numbers at the in the month of August, you only find out at the end of September. So it's probably even worse. Are you tired of winning? We're going to win so hard. And by the way, this is the new guy. This is the good guy, the good numbers guy, the guy that Donald Trump brought in. What now? I said this when he fired the previous labor guy, right? When he fired the previous labor guy and then brought in the new labor guy, I was like, well, you can't just you can't really fake it. What do you do when the new guy also finds the exact same problem? When the new guy runs into the same problem? Well, you're fired. You're also fired. You're all fired. Cool. Okay. One of these days, they'll get it right.
Tell kids they'll have to scale back on dinners out and picture day at school.
What do we set as a priority? Your dad's not getting paid right now. That's our sole source of income. You know, I said no because there's bigger things happening here.
And in Fort Worth, Johnny Jones, a TSA officer, and an AFGE union official worried about how he'll make ends meet.
Child care does not take IOUs. Gasoline does not take IOUs. Your house payments do not take IOUs. And sometimes it becomes very difficult to maintain focus on the mission whenever you're trying to figure out how you're going to get to and from work.
Democrats say those threats from the president for mass layoffs are an act of intimidation, showing no signs of backing off their demands.
The president is now threatening these irreversible cuts to the workforce, to programs. Is that a risk that Democrats are willing to take?
It will fall on him, as I said. He's the one doing the firings, not Democrats.
So 2 Democratic senators and 1 independent broke ranks to support the GOP proposal to keep the government funded. Senate Republicans say they plan to bring that bill back to the floor today, but Democrats say they are holding firm. So the big question now, how do lawmakers get out of this shutdown? Exactly who caves? And just how long will it last? Robin, the last one was 35 days.
Those are all big questions that you just asked there, Rachel. Thank you so much for your reporting.
We are joined by CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. Jill, great to have you here on a day like this. How is a shutdown going to wash through the economy?
Well, first of all, we know that the most direct impact are federal workers, in the military, these workers, people who are deemed essential, who have to show up to work and not get paid. I can't put a finer point on this, that the personal financial lives of these people has been upended, and it's intense. So with hundreds of thousands of people being out of work, some being forced to go to work without pay, it could cause a little bit of a dent in the economy. But I don't think that's the issue. I actually think it's a much more personal issue that these people are going to struggle, and the people where they shop are going to struggle. And although those wages get paid back usually when the government reopens, that doesn't help you if you're fighting with your landlord.
That doesn't help if you need the money right at this second. And I keep thinking about all the people that are making these decisions. They're still getting paid. And all the other people are sitting here going, what? You just heard that.
Is this better? Or is it too dark? I feel like it's too dark, right? Make your bed. Shut up. Don't look behind you. Anyway. The cam is a bit low. I assume it's the laptop cam. No, it's not. It's not a laptop cam. It's propped up on top of the laptop, unfortunately. Because everything is computer, everybody transgender, everything is cooked. This is what the Fap Top sees scary. Oh, speaking of the Fap Top, I've actually upgraded. It's the Fat Pad now. I have an iPad. I bought an iPad finally. I got an iPad Air. I had never had an iPad before. And honestly, it's excellent. Easier to clean? No, like I'm not actually fapping, chatters. What the it's not for fapping related reasons, you little freaks. I'm just saying that like damn, my head, look at the shadow that my head casts behind there. It looks massive. No, it's for watching shit on when I'm traveling. Did you get the Apple Pencil so you can doodle again? No, I did not. You wish your head was fat, girl? Okay, calm down. Calm down.
To say it's the worst possible scenario. But what about big government programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid?
Well,
do those stay intact?
Totally intact. You'll receive benefits, SNAP programs, food stamps. Those things are actually operating as normal. The one thing I'll say is that if you have an application with one of these programs, that may be a little bit delayed. But you will receive your checks. Don't worry. Just one thing, though, that I want to be clear about with the people also is that you should be communicating with anyone. If you feel like that man who said this is the worst case scenario, you communicate with your landlord, you communicate with your utility company, you say, I could be late. Do not hide, because we really want these people to stay afloat.
Do people give you grace during that time?
Sometimes, and sometimes not. It depends how long this lasts. I mean, for every week this goes on, people are going to struggle. They're going to dip into their savings. What I hope they don't do is go into credit card debt. Hopefully they have some savings that they can access. Maybe you actually pull some money and borrow it from your retirement plan if you're feeling the pinch. That's something we should consider.
All right. Good advice there from Jill Schlesinger, as always. Thank you very much.
Chuck Schumer saying that the American people are with Democrats when it comes to opposing Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. But where are Americans in terms of...
Okay. I'm going to get so annoyed with the way that they present this stuff in the upcoming days, where they'll say like, well, a lot of Americans are blaming the Democrats. And I'm worried that like the Democrats are going to see that and get scared and get cold feet and not actually present a strong response. You on vacation? No, look at me. Do I look like I'm on vacation? I'm doing my job that I do. I'm in France for GP Explorer. I will be the English broadcaster for GP Explorer. Okay? Democrats will cave, give it 1 week. I don't have a lot of confidence. I do not have a lot of confidence in the Democratic Party. I will be honest with you. Having said that, we just have to hope that they can get some concessions from the Republicans, even though that sounds so far out in the distance. It sounds impossible. The reason why, I mean, you know how these work. You know how demonic they are, the Republicans. And I just don't I don't think they will actually turn around and, yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is the thing that I'm doing, and we'll watch it later. How about you explore some bitches in Paris instead? Will do.
How they feel about this shutdown right now. CNN's Harry Anton is running the numbers on this. What are you seeing?
Yeah, what are we seeing? This is an American public that more so than ever before I've looked at the polling is willing to go to a shutdown. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. What Americans wanted.
Boom. That's all I needed to hear. That's enough. Holy Toledo. Okay. Holy Toledo. The very fact that there's 49% appetite for stand-on principle in 2025 is enough. Okay. This is not supposed to be a popular position. It's like strikes. Work stoppages are controversial. Okay? They're damaging. They're scary. People don't know. People don't know what might happen. There's a lot of instability that comes with it. But this is leverage. This is the only leverage that the Democrats have to fight back against the administration taking money directly out of your pockets, taking money out of your health care. That's why they're doing this. And I really, really hope that the Democrats can stress the importance of that over and over again, because this is an opportunity to stand on a visible platform and say, this is why we're doing it. Nobody wants a shutdown. The Republicans refuse to give assurances and protect people's health care. Okay?
Shutdown. Well, traditionally speaking, I got the 2013 numbers. The majority of Americans want compromise, no shutdown. You go back to 2013, just 33% said stand on principle, even if it means a shutdown. Come to this side of the screen, we see an even split, right? 50% of Americans say they want a compromise, no shutdown. But up like a rocket, standing on principle, we see now 49%, basically an even split on Americans either wanting a shutdown or, in fact, saying they want their side to stand on principle. I think we're hearing a lot of that from Chuck Schumer.
Which group has shifted the most in terms of compromise or not?
You know, it was so interesting to hear those clips of Chuck Schumer being played back from 2013, from all those past shutdowns.
And just from March, right?
Potential shutdowns. And what has changed significantly is Republicans have always been willing to basically say, you know, we should shut down the government and stand on principle. But now Democrats, a significantly larger portion of Democrats say, you know what, let's...
Yes, Republicans are always in favor of a government shutdown because that's at the heart of Republican messaging. Okay? Republicans act as though the federal government is irrelevant. The Republicans act as though the federal government is worthy of significant cuts because they're stupid and they don't understand that the federal government is important. It's not only a jobs program, but also on top of that, it needs to exist for people to live their daily lives without fear that, you know, the food that they're purchasing at the grocery store is poisoned, or know exactly when some kind of devastation might take place in the form of a natural disaster. Roads run as they normally would, you know, just like every aspect of our lives. The federal government is there, invisible. Federal government, as I always like to say, is only visible when it's failing. Okay? It's only visible when it's failing. If it's invisible, that means it's doing its job. And the Republicans take advantage of that and regularly act as though they don't give a shit about the federal government. That they did this with Doge already. When it's a Democratic White House and GOP Congress, GOP is happy to shut down the government to hold their line because it's beneficial to them. When it's a GOP White House, they want the same no matter what. They have little motivation to reopen because they're conservative. I don't think so. Because I think that considering that they control the White House and Congress, considering that they control the White House and Congress right now, this will look like a severe incompetence that will lay squarely on the shoulders of the Republican Party. So if the Democrats message correctly, at this moment, they will be able to actively shift the attention to the ways in which the Republicans are cutting their health care, which is incredibly important. And not only that, but also they will be able to put the blame on the Republican Party and their incompetence and their inability to address this pressing demand. That's the best case scenario. Also, rest in peace to Jane Goodall. She was a legend. She was awesome. Yes, I see your messages in the chat. Obviously, we're not going to talk about that right now. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's continue.
Principle. What Democrats want to pre-shutdown. You go back to 2013, just 18% of Democrats said stand on principle. The vast majority, 76%, 3 in 4 Democrats said compromise, no shutdown. Look at this side of the screen. Look at this percentage that said stand on principle back in 2013. It was 18%. Now it's 47%, more than double. In fact, nearly triple the percentage of Democrats now say stand on principle as compared to 2013. We see a much more even split among Democrats. The 52% who say compromise, no shutdown, the 47% who say stand on principle, within the margin of error of each other. What we're seeing is a Democratic Party that is much more so than ever before saying, you know what, let's shut down the government, even if it means no compromise, so that we can stand on principle.
A big question now that it is shut down is how long is this going to last? We keep making the comparison to the longest shutdown, which was in 2018. What's your reference point on how long you would say it is going to last?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You look at these numbers, right? You see that 18 to 47%.
Right.
You see this 33% to 49% stand on principle, and you hit at it, Kate Baldwin. The longest shutdown on record was 35 days back in 2018 to 2019, and we're seeing now a Democratic Party that's much more likely to dig in, and you have that Republican Party that has pretty much always been over the last decade very likely to dig in. I think this is a pretty good reference point. I wouldn't be surprised if we reach this record or go.
Breaking shutdown impacts are starting. Republicans are shutting things down and destroying projects. This is stupid of them, in my opinion. And as they now will own the shutdown side effects like idiots, nearly $8 billion in green new scam funding to fuel the left's climate agenda is being canceled. The projects are in the following states. So dumb. So stupid. That's jobs, man. That's jobs. That's jobs in states, okay, where Republicans will be working as well. I know that these are, for the most part, blue states, and that is by design, for the record. If you noticed, they're not cutting funding or canceling projects that were allocated to jobs in red states, okay? They're such assholes, dude. They're such animals. How do you deal with this shit, dude? How do you deal with a government that has identified half the population as its enemy? And it's ironic because they used to say Joe Biden is doing this when he says that, like, MAGA Republicans represent a threat to this country, but he never did shit like this. You know what I mean? And he wasn't even wrong when he said that MAGA Republicans are a threat to this goddamn country. It's like, low-key, he was correct. It's so crazy that they're just openly waging war on Democratic cities and Democratic states. And it is obvious that they're like so careless about it too. They just don't care. Like they're not thinking about the impact of this. They're not thinking about what this will look like down the line.
Go further, of course, time will tell.
Yes, it will. Thank you so much, Harry. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Democrats, the party of open borders, transgender for everybody.
Oh, my Lord. Brother, you can't put that in an ad, man. That's so dumb. They're so stupid. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What do you say? What do you even say to this shit, bro? Democrats, the party for transgender for everybody.
Party of open borders, transgender for everybody. Lawlessness in our streets are shutting down the government in an effort to appease the radical left. These Democrats are coordinating their strategy with outside leftist groups and are demanding nearly $1.5 trillion in spending for an agenda that includes healthcare for illegal aliens and much, much more. Democrats for years have railed against government shutdowns, claiming a shutdown would mean much chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. Democrats are out of control, and you know who it hurts?
You, everyday people, and the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Tell Congress to avoid the Democrat-led government shutdown.
Federal workers are being told to blame Democrats for the shutdown. Workers at one agency were given unhinged partisan language to use when setting out of office replies. I mean, what do you say to that? Like, this is unheard of. The Hatch Act is for nothing. Okay, it doesn't exist. Seemingly, it's just it's nothing. It's fake. They're using otherwise like nonpartisan instruments to directly make partisan appeals for one party over the other in a way that I've never seen before. Writing emails like a North Korean news reporter. Yeah. Just.
Well, thank you, Carolina, and good afternoon to everybody, and good afternoon to everybody who's watching at home. It's a tough act to follow, but let me just say a few things, then I'll take a few questions. Number one, Democrats say that they care a lot about lowering health care costs, and yet, when the president took historic action to work with the drug companies to lower prescription drug prices, the Democrats did nothing to help us. In fact, we would have loved to have the Democrats helping us, but they didn't. They talk about doing something. They don't actually do the hard work of making it happen. What they have done instead is to shut down the government because we won't give billions of dollars to health care funding for illegal aliens. That is what has actually happened. To the American people who are watching, the reason your government is shut down at this very minute is because, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of congressional Republicans and even a few moderate Democrats supported opening the government, the Chuck Schumer AOC wing of the Democratic Party shut down the government because they said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for health care for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition. Let me say two other quick things then.
It's also just straight up a lie. How do you answer this bullshit? I mean, you just keep pushing back. You just keep pushing back because it's a straightforward lie. I mean, here, there is one, there's the Caitlin Collins interview that comes to mind. Here it is. Caitlin Collins interviewed Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Michael Penis, where Michael Penis also repeated this lie. Let's take a look.
As a constitutional lawyer, do you think you would be okay if a government shutdown happened under President Biden and he canceled programs unilaterally because of it?
We didn't allow that to happen because I'm more responsible than that. When the Republicans were in the minority, we delivered the votes to keep the government open because we don't want to hurt the American people. Chuck Schumer has made the decision unilaterally. He's the leader of the Democrats in the Senate to keep the government shut down for his own personal reasons. It is extreme.
Okay, hold on. That's not the thing I was looking for. There's another Caitlin Collins video. Does anyone have the video I'm talking about where she just straight up is like, "Hey, you made a claim that there's this unsubstantiated claim, a complete falsehood that like illegal immigrants are getting benefits and that's like the demand that the Democrats are making, but that's not the case." And he was like, "No, that is the case actually." Oh, here it is. Here's the video. Hold on. Why isn't it loading? What the hell?
Yeah.
Here.
We're rolling the greatest hits on our social media.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the point about giving people who are here illegally health care is not exactly what is in their proposal.
No, it is 100% what their
immigrants
proposal.
who have legal status,
No,
and you're just
Caitlin,
disagreeing
you're
on who's eligible.
No,
I
I'm
looked
not.
at it, actually, because I was curious about your argument yesterday.
You should study the CBO's analysis that they just put out a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw
and
that,
you
but
should-
It's a fraction too. Legal migrants that get the benefits are a fraction of the expenditure that we're talking about. And they just are like, no, you don't understand. It's actually illegal immigrants that are getting $1.5 trillion. It's like, you just made that up, man. That's not true. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible for any social expenditures whatsoever. It just doesn't. It's a lie. You're just lying. Just like these dipshits originally lied when they were pushing Build Back Better, or Big Beautiful Bill, sorry. When they were pushing Big Beautiful Bill and Democrats were raising the alarms about $800 billion in Medicaid going away, okay? $800 billion in Medicaid funding going away. They turned around and said, no, we're just cutting it from undocumented migrants. It was a lie.
1.2 million people. You're basically arguing about who has legal status, people who are seeking refuge here or seeking asylum.
No, I'm making sure that we are making sure in our provisions that we signed into law have ensured that health care benefits go only to eligible U.S. citizens.
Right,
Chuck
as
Schumer's
is federal
proposal.
law.
Federal law was not being enforced. That's the whole point. We had to fine-tune that so that we could strengthen the health care program. That's what we did.
On this,
we're rolling the greatest hits on our social media.
yeah, I'm just
Straight up a lie. Guys, what does this mean, by the way? I need to ask you this because I got this. I haven't eaten yet today and I'm hungry. Le Club, poulet, this, whatever this is, and bacon. What does this have in it? What is a poulet, œuf, and bacon? Chicken, eggs, and bacon? Oh. Okay, so there's no fish in this, right? There's no seafood in this. All right, I'm about to rip this and give you a little taste test on the side. Chicken, eggs, and bacon. This is a weird combo, but okay. It was the only thing that didn't have tuna in it. So, and when people in Europe say bacon, they don't mean like bacon in the American style. They mean like a cured ham or something. I don't understand that either. Like a strange phenomena. Like when I assume bacon, I don't mean like uncooked bacon. I assume cooked bacon. Anyway, let's continue. Let's get back to JD Vance lying.
And then I'll take some questions. Number one, we all understand that Democrats and Republicans have policy disagreements. The Democrats want to do things. Look, when Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries were in here a couple.
Oh, that's so bad. Oh, I've never done that. Oh my God. Oh, that's not edible. Oh, wow. Oh, now it's in my mouth. Now it's just the taste is in my mouth. Oh, wow. That's not good. Okay. Dude, what the fuck are French people doing? I can't believe dudes unironically eat this. Num, num, num. I mean, French cuisine is delicious. I love going to a boulangerie, but that was not. I mean, that's like I got that at a, what is it, Extra or something? It's like a basically the gas station egg sandwich equivalent. But let me tell you, those are, the prepackaged one was garbanzo. I can't believe 7-Eleven in America is more edible than that.
Days ago, they made some suggestions that the president was more than happy to say, yes, let's sit down and talk about how we can solve the healthcare crisis that we inherited
Patisserie et boulangerie.
from the Biden administration. But it's one thing to say that we should solve the healthcare crisis for Americans. It's another thing to say that we're going to shut down the government unless we give the Democrats every single thing that they want, which, as Caroline says, includes giving billions of dollars of taxpayer funding for healthcare for illegal migrants. That's ridiculous. You don't have policy disagreements that serve as the basis for a government shutdown. Let's have the conversation about how to fix American healthcare, about how to make healthcare more accessible. As the president showed, he's more than willing to act on behalf of the American people for this very reason. What you don't do is say, unless you do exactly what we want to do.
Why are you saying close the fridge? Shut the fuck up. Bro, on my translate it said chicken, egg, bacon, and death. Well, that is what it tasted like.
As congressional Democrats, we're taken hostage. And the hostage, it turns out, is critical, essential services that the American people need. Caroline talked about some of it. Let me talk about some more. Our troops are not getting paid starting today because of the Chuck Schumer wing of the Democratic Party. We have people who
Great. Then concede. Then make sure that everybody gets health care. There's always two parties to a negotiation like this, okay? There are two parties here. Negotiate. Concede. If the demands from the Democrats are reasonable and just, in this case they certainly are, concede. Or own it. Own that you're like, no, I'm going to keep the government not funded. I'm going to keep the government shut down, and all those people are going to suffer because I don't want to fund healthcare, because we gave massive tax cuts to the super wealthy, and we wanted to ensure that our friends that gave us a lot of money kept receiving tax cuts. And obviously, in an effort to justify said tax cuts, we had to cut funding elsewhere. And the elsewhere is you, the American people. You, the American people, will suffer. Your healthcare will be more costly. Your healthcare is already expensive. It's going to be even more expensive. And you'll get kicked out of coverage as well, because we wanted to do that. Because that's the truth.
Require food assistance, low-income Americans who require food assistance, who will not get it unless we reopen the government, thanks to Chuck Schumer and his wing of the Democratic Party. We have flood insurance as we start hurricane season in the southeastern part of our country. That flood insurance is going to disappear because of Chuck Schumer and the far left of the Democratic Party. We need to reopen the government. Let's fix America's problems. Let's work together to solve them. But let's reopen the government before we have our negotiation about health care policy. That's what the American people demand, and that's certainly what the President of the United States wants. Let me make one final point. I think a lot of Americans are asking themselves, why did this happen? Why did the Democrats shut down the government despite, as Caroline said, voting on the exact same piece of legislation 6 months ago? And there are a lot of different spins that we can put on it, a lot of different answers that we could give, all of them true. One answer I already gave is that they want to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. That is true. They gave us legislative text that would have undone us cutting off health care benefits for illegal aliens.
They're not cutting off health care benefits for illegal aliens. You want to know why? Because there are no health care benefits for illegal aliens, okay? There are no health care benefits. There's no government-funded health care for undocumented migrants, okay? They might exist at the state level, like for California and whatnot, but that's a state legislature thing, okay? There is no federal-funded program that directly funds health care for undocumented immigrants, okay? Undocumented migrants can only, the undocumented migrants and their overall impact on the federal government is only when they go to emergency room visits and they can't pay for it. That's it. And that is marginal. It's like 0.1% of overall expenditure. Okay? Straight up. This is a lie. There is no federal funded initiative to give health care, government funded health care, to undocumented migrants. It is made up. They are making this up, and they're just going along with this made up thing.
one of the things that they asked for. But the reality here, and let's be honest about the politics, is that Chuck Schumer is terrified she's going to get a primary challenge from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The reason why the American people's government is shut down is because Chuck Schumer is listening to the far-left radicals in his own party because he's terrified of a primary challenge. So I'd invite Chuck Schumer to join the moderate Democrats and 52 Senate Republicans, do the right thing, open up the people's government, and then let's fix health care policy for the American people. Questions?
This is quite literally the Democrats, by force, trying to fix healthcare policy for the American people. Not even fix healthcare policy for the American people, of course, but to simply defend the existing lackluster healthcare policy that you guys have further crippled. That is the entire point. I can't believe that the Democrats have finally arrived at the correct position after months and months of demands coming from the base. I still fear that given the misinformation landscape that exists, especially with the vice president going on this podium and just actively lying without any pushback whatsoever, because who the fuck's going to push back in that press room, right? All of the people that could have asked a couple questions about the veracity of the statements he's making have been removed from the room, and instead they've been replaced with Tim Pool and Laura Loomer and Benny Johnson and people like that. So it's ridiculous. So you're supporting a shutdown? Yes. Yes. It should have happened last time. Okay? Chuck Schumer should have pushed for it last time for a million different reasons, by the way, not just for healthcare. Okay. It should have happened last time. And remember, it doesn't have to continue. There's no reason to go to a shutdown. Okay? There's no reason for there to be a shutdown at all. Republicans could just say, you know what, you're right. We actually went a little heavy-handed on the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, specifically Medicaid. We're actually going to protect Medicaid, and we're going to ensure that people's health care is not taken from them. If they were to say that, then there would be no shutdown. That's it. It's that simple. There are other demands that they could be making here as well, but I'm happy with like the unified messaging on the healthcare front. That's not bad. Okay? That's not bad at all. Obviously, you could demand that the administration follow the Constitution and stop sending the American military to American cities simply because the president is bored. A coworker saw me watching you and wanted to let me know you have shitty takes. I'm sure he has fantastic takes, considering the unifying principle of all my naysayers. I suspect that your coworker probably does not have very good takes and doesn't know his ass from his elbow. Coworker politics, back at it again.
It's a lot. Matt Boyle.
Okay. Mr. Vice President, there's two key Democrat lies I would like to get your take on and see if you can address. The first is that you're seeing
two key Democrat lies that I'd like to get your take on and see you address. This is not a journalist. You are a spokesperson for the government, okay? You are a spokesperson, not for the government, but just for Donald Trump, basically. What the is happening? This is not normal. This is abnormal. Please do not assume this is normal. Just not that it fucking matters at this point, but they are using every aspect of the federal government like a fleshlight. Okay? What do you say to this? First question he takes, Mr. Vice President, how do you feel about the loser Democrat Party being losers and how bad they are and how they want America to fail? That's not a question. You're not asking a question.
top Democrat leaders from Kamala Harris to Chuck Schumer to Hakeem Jeffries claim that it is a Republican shutdown caused by Trump. The second is that they're out there now claiming that they don't want to give health care to illegal aliens. Can you address both of those lies from the Democrat Party?
Yeah, so on the point that it's a Republican shutdown, look, it's obviously a Democratic shutdown. Just look at the vote totals in the House, look at the vote totals in the Senate, and look at the President of the United States' own action and conduct throughout this crisis. Nearly every single House Republican voted to open the government, Matt. Nearly every single Senate Republican voted.
Yeah, that's how it works, man. That's how it works. They have very reasonable demands. You are refusing to entertain those very reasonable demands and instead lying about said very reasonable demands and hitting the transgender immigrant line over and over again. How long for how long will this work? I do want to know. Like, cuz like there's got to be a point where, you know, even the average Republican turns around and says, "Okay, you say that every time. You say that about everything. Transgender, migrant, everything." It does seem to have a stranglehold over the average Trumpian Republican for sure. They hear transgender, they hear illegal alien, and they get primed. They're like, "Oh my God, hell, that's right. That's what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to transgender my migrants and my children. They want to make my children undocumented and then transgender them or some shit." But like, there's got to be a point where people go, "Okay, man, like maybe they're not just trying to transgender the migrants and my children and then undocument them and then allow them to get killed by undocumented migrants." Like there has to be a point like where they're just chipping away at their base, I hope.
To open the government last night, and even to their credit, a few moderate Democrats voted to open the government. That's not a Republican shutdown when nearly every single Senate Democrat votes to shut it down and every Republican voted to open it up. It's just obviously not true. Now, you can disagree about a number of things, but you can't disagree about the obvious fact that Republicans voted to open the government. The president stands ready to sign that opening of the government. We just need a few more Democrats to join us in that effort to open the government. Your final question.
This is true, by the way. They do need a couple moderate Democrats, and they already have like Fetty Wap, obviously. Uncle Fetty Wap, he is already on board with like funding the government, but they need like what? I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 6. I didn't want to say 6, 7, but I think they need 7 more. Watch Chuck Schumer fold again. It's just like relying on Chuck Schumer here is like hoping that a wet napkin can hold your food, okay? He is just such a malleable little worm-like individual. I am so worried that he's going to cave. I'm so worried that the fate of the constitutional republic is in the hands of a wet dish rag. I just like he is so bad at whipping the Senate in general. Fetterman has a net positive approval now in PA because of Republicans. Completely meaningless. They will not vote for him. They will vote for a Republican. Okay? He is a Republican. He might as well run as a Republican. Oh, God. It's not a plus 12. It's a plus 8 approval rating for Fetty Wap. Oh, God. I hate everything. I hate everything so much. Of course, the brain damage made him Republican.
About illegal alien benefits. Look, the text is very clear. And I even saw, I think it was George Stephanopoulos in an interview with Mike Johnson, did a fact check that was totally rooted in baseless claims. It was basically Democrat propaganda. If you look at the legislative text that they gave us, they tried to turn on 2 separate provisions that would give health care benefits to illegal aliens. Number one, if you're an American citizen, you've been to a hospital in the last few years, you probably noticed that wait times are especially large, and very often somebody who's there in the emergency room waiting is an illegal alien, very often a person who can't even speak English. Why do those people get...
The funniest thing about the brain damage thing is that Republicans tell me he got knocked straight, and that's why he makes sense now, whereas it's obvious the brain damage fucked him up. I mean, he quite literally said that after he got brain damage, he straight up became conservative. He said that on Bill Maher. That's what you need. In this country, if you are a conservative person, if you're like a MAGA style Republican, you have maybe a little bit of brain damage, okay? And if you didn't have brain damage prior, but then you got brain damage, you're more likely to be a conservative after that, okay? It's just like, yeah, I got stroked out, and now I have conservative values. I'm racist, and I love Israel. Israel's the most important nation on the planet. It makes sense. Oh, also, senators leaving town until Friday to observe Jewish holidays, so the government will be shut down at least until then, but likely longer. I have to go grab the food myself because I don't bring it upstairs. I'll be back in a second.
Healthcare benefits at hospitals paid for by American citizens? The answer is a decision made by the Biden administration that the Trump administration, working with congressional Republicans, undid. We turned off that money spigot to healthcare funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats, in their legislative text, want to turn it back on. That's one thing. The second thing, Matt, is we all know that there are various ways in which the Biden administration waved away illegal immigration status. They gave parolees, they gave asylum claims to people who weren't really claiming asylum. And when they waved the magic wand of amnesty, giving millions of people legal status, even though they were in the country illegally, they also gave those people access to health care benefits. So what the Democrats are engaging in is a sleight of hand. They're saying, no, no, no. Those weren't illegal aliens who were getting health care benefits, even though everybody, knows they were in the country illegally. It's a lie told by the Democrats that they're not trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. It's a lie that is obviously untrue if you just look at the text that they gave us. And all you have to do is understand that this is about who benefits. We think the American people's government ought to benefit American citizens. The Democrats are willing to shut it down to benefit illegal aliens. The contrast couldn't be more clear. Peter.
Thank you, Vice President Vance. The big holdup is, of course, that you guys say illegal immigrants are getting taxpayer-funded health care. Democrats say you're lying. That makes it feel like it could be a really long shutdown. Is this going to be a long shutdown?
You know, I don't know. I can't predict what congressional Democrats are going to do, Peter, but I actually don't think it's going to be that long of a shutdown. This is a pure guess from the Vice President of the United States because I think you already saw some evidence that moderate Democrats are cracking a little bit. They understand the fundamental illogic of this. Look, for years, every single one of us, we can remember Barack Obama on the White House lawn. We can remember Chuck Schumer. We can remember, Nancy Pelosi for years. In Chuck Schumer's case, for literally decades, we've heard them say, you don't shut the government down over a policy disagreement. Okay, Republicans think this thing about health care, that thing about health care. Democrats think this thing about immigration. Republicans disagree. Whatever those disagreements are, you don't shut down the government over it. For the first time since the Democrats have been in politics, they're now saying that unless we get every policy item that we demand, we're going to shut down the people's government. They're trying to take a hostage, and we're not going to let them.
And the administration announced today that $18 billion bound for New York transportation projects is going to be frozen so it can't go to DEI programs there. But the timing of this, does announcing that today mean that you guys are going to squeeze Chuck Schumer's home state until he blinks?
Look, I haven't talked to Russ about this morning, but look, I'm sure that Russ is heartbroken about the fact that he's unable to give certain things to certain constituencies. We want to do everything that we can to help the American people, but when the Democrats shut down the government, we have to actually do a little triage to make sure the most critical and most essential services are provided. The government does a lot of things. Of course, Republicans think that the federal government probably does too much, but there are a lot of critical things the federal government does that absolutely all of us would agree need to do. Our troops need to get paid. Our air traffic controllers need to make sure that people are flying safely and on time. We need low-income people to be able to access the food services that are provided by the federal government. There are critical things that need to be saved. We're going to do everything that we can over the coming weeks, if the shutdown lasts that long, to ensure that people get the essential services that they need, despite the fact that Chuck Schumer has shut down the federal government. It's not going to be perfect because we are in a government shutdown. We are going to have to lay some people off if the shutdown continues. We don't like that. We don't necessarily want to do it.
I got Lebanese food. And they wrote a note. I don't know what this means, but they wrote a note. Merci pour votre commande. Bon appétit et yafa et bientôt. Prenez soin de vous, les Habibis. Thank you for your order. And bon appetit, bon apple tea. And then they said, Habibi. They called me Habibi. Oui, oui. I got a bunch of stuff. I got a bunch of baklava to test out, to see what le Lebanese le Lebanese are doing with le food. Okay. Le pita. Und Lökum. Okay. Oui, oui, garlic sauce. I got lavash. I think some hummus and some labneh as well. Oui. This thing, it's like za'atar, kind of. I don't know. It's like pizza. I don't know what it is. I just got a bunch of stuff to test it out. Tawuk protein bowl. Looks pretty good. Smells good too. All right, good start. This is the most French food you can have. Lebanese. About to f this up. First time I'm having food in the last, not 24 hours, but like almost. Will it make you gay though? I hope. Okay. Not bad. Not bad at all. Bone apple tea, everybody.
But we're going to do what we have to keep the American people's essential services continuing to run.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you for being here. Yesterday, President Trump said, as a result of the shutdown, we'll be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and the Democrats, they are going to be Democrats. Has the administration asked agencies to target federal workers who they believe to be Democrats in these reductions of forces?
We're not targeting federal agencies based on politics. We're targeting the people's government so that as much as possible of the essential services can continue to function. That is the question the president has asked the entire government, is fundamentally, okay, we're in a shutdown. That causes some problems. The troops aren't getting paid. There's nothing that we can do about that while the government is shut down. But there are essential services that we want to make sure as much as possible they still continue to function. That is the principle that's driving us forward during this shutdown. It's going to continue to be the principle that drives us forward. But let's be honest. If this thing drags on for another few days or, God forbid, another few weeks, we are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so the essential services don't get turned off in other places. That is the reality of the government shutdown that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have foisted upon the administration.
So what did he mean by they're going to be Democrats? He said they're going to be Democrats.
You've laid out a lot of the pain and problems that would come with a Democrat.
Donald Trump literally said we're going to target and fire Democrats. Which, once again, not that it matters, but is highly illegal. Of course, the role that J.D. Vance plays here is to put a more legitimate face to the mania of this administration, and therefore, he has to act like he didn't hear that. A lot of that going on here.
Shutdown, and yet in the Oval Office yesterday, the president said that a lot of good could come from a shutdown. So square that circle. Which is it, a Democratic-caused crisis or a Republican opportunity for reform?
Well, I think all the president is saying, Phil, is that he wants to make sure the American people's government functions as well as it can, despite the fact that we're in a shutdown. We're going to have to make things work. And that means that we're going to have to triage some certain things. That means certain people are going to have to get laid off. And we're going to try to make sure that the American people suffer as little as possible from this shutdown. That's what the president is saying, is that, yes, this is a bad thing. Obviously, the president is trying to reopen the government, but we're going to make things work as well as we possibly can, given the constraints that we have.
And then on those policy differences for the discussion and the negotiations to come later, during the Biden administration, Democrats twice voted to expand these Affordable Care Act tax credits, but those were supposed to be temporary and they were slated to expire at the end of the year. As you sort of crack the door open to negotiation at a later date, would the party that ran on defunding Obamacare really negotiate about potentially expanding Obamacare?
Well, Phil, what we've said to the Democrats is that we're willing to have a conversation about how to ensure that Americans continue to have access to health care. And frankly, they should have access to better health care at a lower cost. We inherited a mess of a health care system from the Biden administration. It's why the president has worked so hard on the most favored nation status for prescription drugs. It's why we care so much about lowering the cost of prescriptions and why we're doing everything else. We're willing to have that conversation, but I think it's important to bracket the healthcare policy conversation because it's separate from the government.
If you want to understand the stupidity of the Republican Party and what motivates them to take action in one way or another, understand that back in the day they used to say it's Obamacare. They would just associate healthcare with Obama, and that's how they attacked it. Now they just say, oh, it's undocumented transgenders that are getting the health care. So this is part of the reason why I don't, this is part of the reason why I always say, like, this is not, like, what we arrived at as far as American politics goes, didn't happen overnight. They used to do this back in the day as well. They used to lie. They used to say death panels when they were defending the private healthcare industry, and did not want the ACA provisions to force healthcare providers to actually offer people coverage regardless of their pre-existing conditions.
Shutdown. We think that we can open the government and then have the conversation about what best healthcare policy to fit the needs of the American people. That's all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to accomplish. We've got to reopen the government first. Now, Caroline, I don't know how you do this, how you actually choose people, because I don't know 90% of the names in here. Is it just who's the best dressed? Okay, I really like your shirt. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You are president of the Senate. Can you talk about what you're doing, what the administration is doing to try to get other Senate Democrats to vote to open the government?
Yeah, we're talking to a number of our colleagues, Democratic and Republican, in the Senate. I talked to a number of them last night. The president, of course, is talking to them as well. I think there really are two categories of demands that I've seen privately from congressional Democrats. I think on the one hand, those who are negotiating in good faith are saying, look, we just want to make sure that we're able to have a conversation with the administration about some of the critical needs that we see that need to get fixed over the next few months. We recognize it's kind of absurd, and a lot of them will admit in private that it's kind of absurd to shut down the people's government over these disagreements, but just agree to negotiate with us in good faith on these issues. And of course, we're having that conversation with them. Then there's another category, people who say, give us everything.
You want to know what's really funny about this? Or just perhaps gross? Obviously, he's lying, but something that has been endlessly frustrating for even Republicans in Congress that they're too pussy to say anything about is the fact that Donald Trump is now single-handedly capable of overriding the power of the purse that Congress has. So even when there's budget allocations that take place for foreign, for foreign policy related reasons and things like that, Donald Trump now has the mandate from the Supreme Court to say, no, we're not doing that. This has been very frustrating and is yet another incredibly important point of contention in the shutdown conversations. It's so bad that even Chuck Schumer used it as an example to say, what difference does it make whether we actually allocate money in the budget for anything when the president can then turn around and say, we're not doing that anymore? Like, it has eroded the last remaining use of the legislative body. So when he turns around and says, oh, we got to have a conversation in good faith, it's like, you can't have a conversation in good faith with these guys. It's all bad faith.
They want, or we're going to keep the government shut down. We just write those people off because they're not negotiating in good faith. And frankly, we don't need them. We've already got...
Can you say why the immigrant healthcare thing is bullshit? You need to explain it for a MAGA guy? It's just a lie. There's no other way to explain it. It's just a lie. Like, I know that sounds crazy. I understand where you're like, well, that doesn't really answer the question. Like, what do you mean it's just a lie? That's it. It's just a lie. It's not a thing. It is literally not a real thing. Undocumented migrants are not capable of taking advantage of any kind of social expenditure. Okay? They don't take advantage of welfare. They can't get it. They don't get any health care whatsoever from the federal government. It's just completely bullshit. It's made up. The thing that you can maybe tangentially point the finger at is like that there are documented immigrants who also at certain points will get a fraction of the healthcare coverage, or like some of the funding could go to documented immigrants, not undocumented immigrants, just documented immigrants. But even then, that's a marginal part of this much larger amount that is being taken away. And even then, it's also not illegal. It's like literally legal for documented migrants to be able to take advantage of some of the healthcare initiatives the federal government has. What are we doing? These are legal, documented non-citizens, okay? These are not undocumented migrants. These are documented, legal non-citizens. But even then, it is a tiny sliver of the overall expenditure, okay? Yeah, fact check. Trump falsely claims Democrats want to give free health care to illegal aliens in government shutdown battle. Trump and Vance's assertions are not true. The Democrats are drawing a line in the sand over health care, but it doesn't involve undocumented immigrants. The Democrats are pushing to continue more generous federal subsidies to help Americans afford Obamacare policies and reverse the deep cuts to Medicaid contained in Trump's sweeping domestic policy agenda package. But neither of those changes would provide health care coverage to undocumented immigrants, since they aren't eligible for either program. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible for any of these programs. Democrats' top priority is extending the... Do you see why this is so stupid, by the way? Like, you're asking me something where you're like, hey, how can I convince my MAGA coworker? And I don't have a great answer for you other than it's just a lie, because that's exactly what it is. It just sucks, but they are blatantly lying. They are just straight up making this up. They're lying to dupe your MAGA coworkers into believing that the healthcare cuts that are coming are not actually going to hurt him, but they're going to magically hurt some undocumented migrant instead. It's pretty crazy.
3 more Democrats last night than I thought we would get. And I think it's because they recognize the illogic of the position of taking the entire American economy hostage because they don't get their policy priorities. So 3 moderate Democrats joined 52 Republicans last night. We need 5 more in order to reopen the government. And that's really where we're going to focus, is how to get those 5 additional Democrats.
Thanks, Mr. Vice President. First 2 questions. Are there plans to meet Democratic leaders again in the coming days, or are you planning on plucking off senators one by one?
So that's the whole question?
No, I got a second part.
Okay, go ahead and ask the second question.
So the president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer.
I saw.
Recently. You've said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful to post pictures of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions.
Can you explain to me what the joke is? He knows that shit ain't funny, bro. He has to sit there and act like this is a sincere thing, that this is a normal thing. His ass knows, bro. What do you mean? Oh, it's just funny. Come on, it's just funny.
And even
what's the joke? That he's Mexican? Like, what is the joke there? Haha. Hakeem Jeffries is Mexican, actually. What's the joke?
Some fun at the...
Also, is it appropriate to be making jokes on the one hand while, like, we're staring down the barrel of a recession? And on top of that, you got 750,000 government employees that are going to be furloughed. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop. And I've talked to the President of the United States about that. Now, to your first question, are we negotiating one-on-one? Are we negotiating in groups? Look, I will go to the U.S. Capitol right now and meet with Chuck Schumer or any Senate Democrat if it helps us reopen the government. Most of the conversations, in my experience at least, have been one-off. We're also, of course, relying on some of our Senate Republican colleagues who...
Yo, low-key, this Lebanese food's been a banger, by the way. Not even low-key. High-key, this Lebanese food's been a banger, dude. Oh, my God.
have good
been good
relationships
as
across
fuck.
the aisle. We're going to do whatever we have to do is the answer. And I think it's tough to predict what shape this negotiation is going to take over the next few months. But I feel good about the fact that Democrats already realize privately the fundamental irrationality of their position. I hope that they're going to publicly acknowledge it and reopen the government. The guy in the back, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You responded to a post on X of Chuck Schumer on the House floor back in 1996, railing against illegal immigrants receiving taxpayer-funded benefits. You said Chuck Schumer once recognized that it was disastrous to give illegal aliens rewards for breaking the law. Now he wants to shut down the government unless we reward illegal aliens for breaking the law. Why has Chuck Schumer changed his stance?
You know, that's a good question. Actually, it's a very tough question. Asking me to get in the head of Chuck Schumer is not a place I particularly want to be, but my basic read on it is that the entire Democratic Party, the political leadership, not every Democrat nationwide, but the political leadership of their party has got it into their heads that the only way to be compassionate is to be compassionate to illegal aliens rather than American citizens. If you go back to what Bill Clinton was saying, even Barack Obama in some cases, what he was saying about illegal immigration 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Bro, just straight up made up, okay? What's frustrating about this conversation is that if you ask me what my honest position is, those guys should get the proper documentation and also take advantage of, in the future, potentially, an expansive free healthcare coverage that we offer to every single person. But we're so far removed from that reality that we're just over here talking about how these guys have created this like fictitious narrative about how undocumented migrants are the only people that the Democrats care about and that they're getting all of the healthcare that you're not getting. This one is not as good. This is a tar thing. But the Lubna is pretty good.
You would put them on the MAGA right based purely on their rhetoric around illegal immigration. So I don't know why they've gone so far to the left. I think it's bad for the country. I think it's bad for them politically. But our principle, all I can do is speak for the president that I serve and the country, the administration that I serve right now. We believe that the American people's government exists for the American people. That means the people who have the legal right to be here, and that's why we're fighting to reopen the government. And unfortunately, the Democrats are fighting to shut it down for the benefit of illegal aliens. And I'll take a couple more, and then I'll let Caroline, I'll go back to my day job so Caroline can go back to hers. All right, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just going back to the sombrero, you said that the president is joking, but Hakeem Jeffries says that these memes were racist. What's your response to that? And just if I may briefly go off topic, Secretary Hegseth yesterday made an edict about no more beardos in the military. Just wondered what...
Sorry, what did he say?
No more beardos.
Beards.
Oh, sorry, that's my accent. Just wondered your response to that.
I didn't see that particular comment. I thought Pete gave a hell of a speech, and a speech that really is just oriented around returning the American...
Yeah, no more fat beardos in the Marines. You know, like J.D. Vance himself. How are they allowed to lie like this on national television? There's no repercussions. At that point, it's free money, you know? Why not take it?
Military to the very high standards that it has had for virtually its entire history until Joe Biden came along and decided to...
Dog, that's so stupid. Joe Biden didn't implement the beard waiver for black active duty service members. It's been around for like 50 years, man. What the f*** is this guy talking about? I already described why it exists. Black people have coarse hair. And if they do a straight razor shave, they end up getting like massive... Like it's like a medical issue. What is it? Folliculitis? Because the ingrown hairs just like grow into your face. That's the only reason why there's like an allowance for people to not abide by the same like shave code or grooming standards. That's it.
Were standards. I think it was bad for our military and it was bad for our troops. When I was a young United States Marine, I did not have a beard. I am now the vice president, so I get to do what I want to do. But I think Pete's trying to re-implement high standards, and that's a very good thing. On the sombrero thing, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries said it was racist, and I know that he said that. And I honestly don't even know what that means. Like, is he a Mexican American that is offended by having a sombrero meme? I mean, I saw one of the major TV stations put the meme up and then say, this is AI generated. And he had like the curly animated mustache too. It's like, do you really not realize the American people recognize that he did not actually come to the White House wearing a sombrero and a black curly animation mustache? Like, give the country a little bit of credit. We're all.
First of all, saying that on the same week that Donald Trump posted an AI video of himself is extra funny. So, unfortunately, no, there are plenty of Americans, including the president, that can't distinguish between AI videos and real videos, okay? That's Mr. Medbed right there. And secondly, that's not the main point of contention, dog. If the punchline of the joke is, haha, you're Mexican and you wear a sombrero, then yeah, that's just racist. What's funny about it? Someone should ask him. What's the joke then? Can you explain it? Because that's the most OP thing you can do. You can have the funniest on the planet out there, right? On that podium, and you go, hey, can you explain this joke to me? I'm genuinely trying to understand what's funny about it. It's over. It's impossible. It's impossible to remain humorous in a moment where you're explaining a joke.
All trying to do a very important job for the American people. The President of the United States likes to have a little bit of fun when he's doing it, and I think that's okay. I'll take one more question.
How could it be racist if you're not Hispanic? Great question. Why don't we just do a blackface Donald Trump? How could that be racist? He's not black. Like, what are we talking about, dude? Like, what the like, the person doesn't have to be literally Mexican for that joke to be seen as racist. Bro, don't give him any ideas. Oh, I can totally see Trump doing blackface shit. Guarantee it. I mean, is it really that far-fetched? Think about, like, we're talking about grooming standards. Think about the standards we have in the Oval Office. Is it honestly that far-fetched to assume that there will be an N-word fiasco or some kind of incredibly racist moment from this admin? I don't think that's far-fetched at all. And of course, as is the case with this instance, he'll just turn around and be like, I don't understand. The president was just simply, the president is a student of history. And he's a student of the history of comedy, actually. And he was just hearkening back to a time when woke culture hadn't ruined vaudeville. You know? That's what he was doing. He was just like presenting it in a humorous way, you know, before wokes ruined it.
In every previous shutdown, workers have been furloughed, not laid off. So why does the president want to fire some workers and not just furlough them? Why is this shutdown any different?
Well, first of all, we haven't made any final decisions about what we're going to do with certain workers. What we're saying is that we might have to take extraordinary steps, especially the longer this goes on. We're going to have to take extraordinary measures to ensure the people's government operates, again, not perfectly, because it's not going to operate perfectly in the midst of a shutdown, but operate as well as it possibly can. And I think that the Democrats, if they're so worried about the effect this is having on the American people, and they should be, what they should do is reopen the government, not complain about how we respond to the fact that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have shut down the government.
We got baklava, different types of baklava. The roly-poly one. Oh, shit, that's good. That is good as hell, bro. Yes, the global Samud flotilla is being intercepted by the IDF right now as we speak. I know. When we have more updates, I will cover it.
Just a few hours at midnight.
AOC had a pretty good appearance on Chris Hayes.
Tonight, the federal government is expected to shut down. It'll be the first government shutdown since the last time Donald Trump was president. A new poll by NPR, PBS, and Marist shows that if the government does shut down tonight, which we fully expect, Americans would blame Republicans more than Democrats, with 38% of respondents blaming Republicans, 27% blaming Democrats, and 31% blaming both parties. Meanwhile, the president today said from the Oval Office that Democrats are to blame, warned that he would use a shutdown to his political advantage.
A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democrat in New York. She's executive board member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and she joins me now. Congresswoman, it does look like we are headed towards a shutdown. What do you see as the Democratic strategy and message here for a government funding bill?
I mean, Chris, we're here to help people. We are here in the midst of this destruction of the federal government, the federal safety net, $1 trillion eviscerated from people's health care, their Medicare, their Medicaid in this country, with prices that are skyrocketing and life becoming completely untenable for the American people. We are here to try to be a backstop and to be that backstop, which is what the American people have elected us to do.
So right now there's this sort of back and forth about the...
Bro. I know people go AOCIA or whatever the fuck, but like, can you imagine this being the main spokesperson for the Democratic Party as opposed to Chuck Schumer, and then far more radical figures like AOC being the Chuck Schumer of the Democratic Party, and then the AOCs of the Democratic Party being far more radical, being closer to Zohran Mamdani, closer to Rashida Tlaib, or even beyond that. Like, imagine a world like that. Because that would be the competent Democratic Party. Okay? That would be the competent Democratic Party. That would be a real, true left flank party. Look at the way she's talking around this. Like, stop teasing me. I will never stop teasing you.
Tax credits. And there's kind of a strange dynamic that I want to get your sense of, right? Because at one level, negotiating over the ACA tax credits is important. I mean, there are people who are going to see their premiums go up 15, 20%. Like, huge amounts are going to spike. Republicans don't like these extenders. Democrats do. They think it's good for people. But that's fully in the lane of, like, normal politics. And then at the same time, like, the president of the United States assembled 800 military commanders to say, I want you're going to have to go to war against your fellow citizens in American cities. And I think people are having a little bit of a hard time of, like, we're going to have a fight on the shutdown about the tax credits, but not about the president wants to declare war on Americans, even though I understand those two are conceptually distinct. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, Chris, but, I think that's something.
I mean, there's so much that the Democrats could wage war against the Republicans over. That's not a bad idea as well. That's not a bad idea to highlight as well. Like, there's so much. Doge cuts, tax cuts for the wealthy, and then trying to not add to the deficit as much by basically cutting $800 billion in healthcare, something that they're fighting for. Mass kidnappings taking place in every American city. ICE now having more power than they ever have had at any point since its inception in 2001 or 2001, right? What year did the Department of Homeland Security get invented? It was right after 9/11, right? 2002? People forget. They think ICE has been around.
To really set the record straight here on, this is not a fight over tax credits. This is a fight over your ability to go to a pharmacy.
What? Why is the left letting this happening? This is incredibly frustrating. Why is the left not pushing back? What are you talking about? We're literally watching a prominent Democrat push back. Do you mean, like, what? They are doing that. This is it. Why do you think the government shut down, chatter? That's the reason. We're watching it.
Afford your insulin. We're not talking about just 15 or 20% increases in people's premiums. Tomorrow, healthcare companies, and today, healthcare companies are finalizing the premiums that everyday Americans are going to be paying. And we are talking about a doubling of monthly healthcare premiums, not even including your deductible, in terms of what people are going to be paying next year because of $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts that were put together earlier this year. And I don't know about anybody else, but I do not think that this is just about a tax break or a small tax extender. This is about fighting not just on tax breaks, community health centers, and ensuring that we have a stability of the American healthcare system.
Yeah, it's about protecting rural hospitals. Like, rural hospitals overwhelmingly rely on Medicaid for funding. Nursing homes as well overwhelmingly rely on Medicaid for funding because Medicare coverage lapses beyond nursing homes. For like long-term care, nursing home care, you need Medicaid as well. And it's crazy to me that that's the base of support for MAGA. This is, unironically, the Democrats fighting against the MAGA party at the behest of the MAGA base. What are we doing? That's what's so crazy about it. I don't know anyone who acts like you. What? Cares about the future of this country, no matter how much it seems like everyday citizens don't. No matter how much everyday citizens act out against people like myself for caring about the future of this country, regardless of how hostile the average American is to my position. Okay, this is the last one. This is the Lokum Turkish Delight. Bro, everything that I had was bomb, except for the hummus. The hummus was ass. And the arayas or the za'atar wasn't great either. But everything else was bomb. Where the chicken and rice side, I already downed it.
And when Republicans use a legislative mechanism to gut the American healthcare system, we have to use a legislative mechanism in order to restore it and to fight for it. Because at the end of the day, you know, people may talk about tax credits this and tax credits that. What they do understand is when you have insulin and you can't afford it. What they do understand is when your kid has chemotherapy or your spouse gets diagnosed with cancer and you go into a hospital and it doesn't get covered. And you have to choose life and death, what this is about. Now, that does not mean that we ignore the abhorrent violation of law and norms and what is happening with our U.S. cities, but we have a broad spectrum of ways and places that we can fight, including our governors, our attorney generals, and our state and municipal leaders, as you just saw.
So I just want to make sure I understand this just from your perspective here. So, and I think this is generally the view of congressional leadership as well. You can correct me if I'm wrong. If there was bipartisan compromise, right? If everyone came together, the leaders of the parties, the president, and said, yes, these 5 things, we're going to make sure that these premium supports keep going. We're going to fund community health centers, whatever the sort of asks on appropriation around people's affordable health care. If those were met, Democrats would be a yes. Like, that is the box that this is happening in, as opposed to, we can't fund a Department of Justice that prosecutes political enemies or whatever else might be out there.
Well, let me tell you, Chris, the mechanism by which that deal is locked is not just about agreeing in concept on tax credits. We need to do it with no tricks, no games, and no backdoors, which includes rescissions. And when we talk about rescissions, that is the mechanism that the federal government is using to gut and destroy rule of law across the board. So we are fighting to ensure that healthcare is protected.
Like I said, saying the MAGA base is going to be the ones most impacted by defunding healthcare is a bit disingenuous. No, a lot of the wealthy individuals in this country are MAGA because they voted for their capital. Saying this is the son of a retired self-made multimillionaire that is also the son of an immigrant, irony? No. Because while there are more wealthy people that vote for the Republican Party as opposed to the Democratic Party, there are still a ton more poor people in this country than there are wealthy people in this country. And that means that the overwhelming majority of the base of support for both parties is always going to be poor people. And if you're living in a red state, you already have a lot of services that have been crippled by austerity. So you're already in a shittier position overall. If you live in a red state, if you live in a rural area, for example, especially important, rural areas already have a crisis with keeping their hospitals open. If you live in a rural area, you are far more likely to vote Republican, okay? The real divide in this country oftentimes is not about like blue states versus red states. It's about rural areas versus urban environments. Okay, if you live in an urban area, you're more more than likely to vote Democrat. If you live in a rural area, regardless of whichever state you're in, you're probably voting Republican. And ironically enough, throw the 1% aside. They vote, they vote for either party. They majority vote for the Republicans. Who cares? But when you look at the actual base of support for the Republican Party, that comes from rural areas. And those people are the ones that are getting over the most. Those people are the ones who are going to get harmed even further by this because they already don't have enough hospitals in rural areas and they're slated for closure. And those hospitals already rely on Medicaid to fund itself. Okay? So when they no longer have Medicaid, when rural Medicaid recipients no longer have that Medicaid, they can't go to the hospital and pay for their health care. Then that hospital has to go bankrupt and close. So this quite literally hurts Republicans in rural areas more than anybody else. And that is the base of support that is at the heart of the Republican Party's power. It's so crazy. It's ignorance that makes people vote against their best interests. It's a lack of faith in the opposition party. So I do still blame the Democrats for that make people vote against their best interests. It's racism that makes people vote against their best interests. There are a million different reasons. But right now, the Democrats, as it stands, are the only game in town that is actively trying to defend the MAGA base of support from the MAGA party. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people's opinions are. It doesn't matter what people's politics are. That is the reality. The Republican Party has taken the initiative to hurt its own base. The Democrats are willing to throw bows and force a government to a shutdown in order to protect the MAGA Republicans living in rural areas right now. That is exactly what's going on. And it's obviously not just MAGA Republicans, it's obviously Democrats as well. It's just like the working class Americans. But make no mistake, there is a sad irony to the situation.
For every American. But the way that we do that also means that the only way that you guarantee that is by forcing them to adhere to the rule of law, which means eliminating the rescission loopholes that they put in the CR earlier this year, which the Senate unfortunately had caved on then, and we're ensuring that doesn't happen now.
Yeah, the quick 10-second version for people that haven't followed this is that, you need 60 votes to get the filibuster to appropriate funds for the government, but they can pass a rescission, which is to claw back some of the money already agreed to by 50 votes. So they have this kind of like cake and eat it too model where it's like, oh yeah, we'll come together, we'll pass a bipartisan appropriations bill, and then when we've done that, then we'll go and get rid of the stuff we don't like, which just seems like an insane way to negotiate.
It's no way to negotiate. And again, we don't even have to get into the technicalities of this. But what is important to understand is that the way that you honor an agreement and the way that we honor our fight for health care and to define and to also protect everyday Americans' ability to afford their health care, to cover their kids, to defend Medicaid. Those are the same mechanisms that we use to defend our rule of law, to defend the federal workers that we are trying to protect in this shutdown. Donald Trump is trying to play this bluffing game of, well, maybe what we're going to do is hold all the federal workforce hostage and fire everybody. Donald Trump has been fired.
Something important to consider is that taking away 20% of ACA tax credits from someone can take 10x that person's insurance spending. Some people's subsidies cover enough that they pay $20 a month, but they would end up paying over $200 with reduced subsidy. That person isn't getting chemo because they died not knowing that they had cancer because they don't go to the doctor. It's just pure evil, man. I think paywalling healthcare is one of the most evil things that this administration has actively defended. And it's incredible to me that so many more Americans are not always mad about this shit.
Firing everybody. We saw this with DOJ. We've seen this at the State Department. We've seen this at the Department of Justice. They are firing everybody. They are completely eliminating the federal workforce. And in order for us to stop this madness, we have to put a stop to it, and we have to stop enabling their abuse of power, including their use of rescissions. And when we're fighting on their health care, it forces them to act in ways in accordance with the law in other ways, too.
Let me ask you this. There are some people I have seen who have the following theory of why Senate Democrats have not cut a deal where they give 8 votes and move along. And that is that Chuck Schumer is worried about a primary challenge from you and is worried about the politics to his left flank. And so because of that worry about a primary challenge, he's going to shut down the government. Ergo, it is AOC's fault that the government's shutting down, or that you're somehow the kind of fulcrum of this. And I want to just ask you straight up, like, are you planning to primary challenge him? Do you think that's why he's doing this?
This is...
By the way, that is true. Like, I hate to admit that the Republicans are right on that a little bit. There is no world in which Chuck Schumer would actually do the right thing ever unless he was reasonably worried about maintaining his office. Okay? Everybody hates him, and I'm sure a part of that pressure does come from a much better alternative that will primary him into oblivion. Okay? That's it. I mean, that's one part of it. That's one part of the pressure that's causing Chuck Schumer to finally do any job, really. Do a job. Let's be real. I cannot believe that it took 9 months of people demanding he retire and an active primary threat from a much more nationally popular politician for Chuck Schumer to finally do the right thing for once. And before you say Chris Hayes is a dick for asking this question, I don't think so. I think it's a good question for AOC to answer, and I think her answer was pretty good. Like, her answer could have been more aggressive towards Chuck Schumer to be like, you know, yeah, there is some truth to that. It's not me. I'm simply a way for people to voice their frustrations with the leadership of the party. You see the polls. 62% of Democrats want Hakeem Jeffries to be replaced as well. Obviously, we have a crisis of good leadership in the party. It's not a secret that you know, I was undermined when I was running for head of oversight. Very obvious that this party needs fresh, new talent. There is a lot of demand. There's a lot of appetite for more radical and bold policy fighters. Okay, and the old guard has shown time and time again that they cannot meet the moment. You know, if you were running for Chuck Schumer's seat, that's something you would say. And then you would turn around and say, however, now is not the time for primary conversations, and Chuck Schumer has my full confidence in this moment as long as he continues to stand strong against the Trump administration, because obviously that is what matters most. We want to make sure that Americans can continue receiving their health care. They're already suffering. Healthcare is already costly enough as it is, and we should be moving beyond this system. We should be moving beyond to a much more equitable system, one that exists in virtually every other country. Much poorer nations than ours have been able to build and design a socialized healthcare system. We can do it here as well. But in the interim, right now, Chuck Schumer and myself and every other Democrat that stands strong are there for the American population. We are doing this because we want the Republicans to give us assurances to save healthcare.
So not about me in this moment. This is about people being able to insure their children. And I will say, because I saw some senators speculating about this, and I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open, and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate...
Okay, Chris. Inappropriate. You're just snorting into the microphone. God damn. Is this how you guys feel when I speak with my mouth full? You can't even say, oh, Sean Hannity doesn't burp into the mic anymore. At least with Chris Hayes, you can hear him sniffling into the microphone. Okay?
4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
I know he was laughing.
There is, over the last week, it seems a lot of people, and I include myself among them, feel like a sort of rising sense of alarm about the aggressiveness of the sort of authoritarian aspirations of this government, essentially firing a U.S. attorney to replace him with a patsy who will indict a political enemy. The continued threat of using the military on American citizens, the ordering the troops to Portland and then backing up because it was 5-year-old B-roll. I don't know. Do you feel the same way over this last week or two? Does it feel like continuity to you? Are there conversations in your caucus about what this last week has meant?
I think there's two things that are happening at once, and this is something that's very important for people to understand. One, there absolutely is an unprecedented abuse of power, destruction of norms, erosion of our government and our democracy in order to prop up an authoritarian style of governance. That is happening. However, they are weaker than they look. And it is important that we remember that, because what they rely on is the impression of power, the perception of inevitability, in us giving up in advance to say, oh, what's going to happen if I stand up, et cetera. Nothing's going to happen. They rely on that perception of inevitability and power so that people comply in advance and acquiesce in advance and give up in advance. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is at record levels of unpopularity in his tenure. The Republican House is at record levels of unpopularity. They are underwater across the board, and they know it.
She stole your whole flow, dog. Dog, why do you think I fucking speak? Why do you think I say these things? I say these things so you repeat them. I hope that politicians will repeat them as well. The fuck do you mean? It's free ball, baby. It's free money. And no, I don't think she got this from myself. I'm sure she also arrived at the same conclusions on her own.
And that is causing them to double down in public, but it is backfiring. That is why, whether it's a shutdown, whether it's all of this, they want us to blink first. And we have too much to save. Protecting people is too important a task for us to give up before anything even starts. So they may want to send people in, but these National Guardsmen do not want to be turned against their fellow Americans. We're seeing this here in Washington, D.C. It is an insult. Donald Trump is insulting the service members of this country by putting them on these silly tasks that they themselves do not want to be enforcing. And so we have to understand that standing up matters, that our voice matters, to not give in to this cynicism, because that is what they rely on in order to perpetuate this idea that they are that they have total immunity from consequence. They will experience the consequences of this, but we have to be the consequence, which is why we have to stand tall right now alongside everyday Americans who want us to be standing up right now as well.
I want final question for you is about a ruling that came from.
Oh, yeah. FBI director cut ties with the ADL. I know. I'm going to get to it in a second.
A federal district judge.
By the way, that was a great speech. Obviously, it'd be rather silly of me to say that that's a bad speech, considering it's one that I have delivered as well in the past. But it's great.
Who's been on the bench for decades and was appointed by Ronald Reagan. It's in the case of Ramesa Oztark and a few other individuals whose alleged that their free speech, First Amendment rights as protected by the Constitution were violated by ICE grabbing them because of things they said or wrote. And one of the things he gets to is the masking of ICE agents, which is something that we've seen in New York City, here in Chicago, and around. He says, the court has listened carefully to the reason given by Ozturk's captors for masking up. It rejects this testimony as disingenuous, squalid, and dishonorable. ICE goes mass for a single reason, to terrorize Americans into quiescence. It's a federal judge appointed by Reagan. In all our history, we've never tolerated an armed mass secret police. Carrying on in this fashion, ICE brings indelible obloquy to this administration and everyone who works.
Bro, I can't believe I'm saying this, but how the does a Reagan-era federal judge have a better grip on the situation than literally like 85% of the Democratic Party? Like, there are a handful of Democrats that have so eloquently presented what Donald Trump is doing in his attacks against the First Amendment with immigrant apprehensions as a mechanism of immigration enforcement. Actually, I'd go so far as to say that there's like 3 maximum. I wouldn't even say AOC has actually gone this aggressively on this issue. It's like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and that's kind of it. This is another thing that I have been screaming about from the rooftops over and over again. And I'm so glad that it took a Reagan judge to correctly point this out. Using normal people words to get normal people votes. Wait, what? Use normal people. Man, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not saying you should deploy the term indelible obliquity or however the fuck you say it. Are you stupid? I say it all the time. The Trump administration is cynically framing the conversation against Israel as one that is actually about anti-Semitism and combating anti-Semitism, and they're doing it from the mechanism of immigration enforcement. They're deporting people for talking shit about Israel. That is unconstitutional. That's unconstitutional. The Constitution protects migrants, both documented and undocumented alike, on U.S. soil. Okay? A lot of people misunderstand what the Constitution is supposed to do. A better way to frame this is as a restriction on the government. Okay? That's what the Constitution is doing. The Constitution is not there to restrict American citizens. It is there to restrict the government from regulating American citizens on certain issues. It protects every single person on U.S. soil unconditionally, okay? Citizens and non-citizens alike. Documented citizens, documented non-citizens, and undocumented non-citizens alike. There's no confusion on this. And yet, for some weird reason, Democrats haven't been saying this. Okay? The whole point of the Constitution is to regulate the government, is to restrict the government. And the Trump administration, as I correctly pointed to early on, even before he actually became president, was going to open up the door to eroding First Amendment protections by starting off with migrants that they thought were more vulnerable because people wouldn't defend them, okay? And also attack the issue starting with anti-Semitism, which has a lot of institutional persuasive power because there are a lot of advocacy groups on the right and also on the left, on the liberal side especially, that have been tasked with, quote unquote, combating anti-Semitism, which is, simply to stop people from saying shit about Israel. Okay? Yes, on the liberal side as well. Even on the leftist side. There's a reason why there are so many progressive, except for Palestine leftists out there who claim to be leftists, but then, only until recently didn't realize that Israel was a ethno-state doing an apartheid and a genocide. There's a reason. And that is because of the institutional capture of the Zionist lobby and Zionist advocacy groups. That's it. And the Trump administration was very well aware of this, and they realized that that would be the easiest way to open up the door to eroding the First Amendment. This is all laid out, as I have told you time and time again, in Project Esther, which is the First Amendment attack that the Heritage Foundation designed, starting with anti-Semitism, starting with tackling anti-Semitism, which is like anti-Israel sentiment, of course, and then using immigration enforcement, where there's unilateral power in the hands of the state, only to then move on to anti-Christian behavior, for example, or anti-capitalism, as the Trump administration is now designing under new designations as violent rhetoric. Okay? Anti-American, anti-capitalist, anti-Christian rhetoric is now considered violent rhetoric. Where the fuck do you think that goes?
Is it at all bracing to read a Reagan-appointed federal district judge write something like that in finding that Ramesa Ozturk's and others' rights were violated?
Of course. I mean, once, as you said, for a Reagan-appointed judge to be out and out talking about secret police in the United States of America in the year 2025 tells us everything about what's going on. And we get to these extremes through these small erasures and steps when everyone says makes an exception here or makes an exception there. And then before you know it, you have masked agents roaming the streets of this country that do not feel entitled to identify themselves or do not feel like as though they answer to the American people at all. That is dangerous. And it is not without saying, it does not go without saying that the people that they went after first are some of the most vulnerable activists in the United States, which is to say pro-Palestinian organizers and young people, especially those who are on green cards or on visas. Yeah. And the idea that we would allow our freedom of speech to be violated and create exceptions to that for people who are advocating for the lives of Palestinians, it erodes at the very core of American identity, too, because this is the land of the free, but only as long as we defend it and make it so. And so we have a responsibility to ensure that that these individuals are protected, including Mahmoud Khalil, who the Trump administration is currently trying to move to deport.
Yes, in fact, trying very, very hard as we speak. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Hasan Reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.